Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa were once on the same page in WWE when the two were in the same faction as the Tribal Chief and the Enforcer, respectively. However, Matthew Rewoldt, FK Aiden English, thinks there's a possibility of them reuniting against a new threat. Earlier this month, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga went on their own as they started to cut promos and have matches on Friday Night SmackDown without Solo Sikoa as their leader. The two have been rampant with no clear directive from their former leader following his loss to Roman Reigns on WWE Raw. Speaking on the Rebooked Wrestling podcast, Matthew Rewoldt, FK Aiden English, joked that the company can resort to lazy writing by bringing Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa back on the same page against Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. However, the star thinks it's possible and unlikely at the same time. An easy booking would be Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa versus Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu. Big bloodline tag match. You know what I mean. That feels like overtreading, but it's one of those where there's a universe where that gets booked. English said. From 8:30 to 8:45, Solo Sikoa seemingly ignored Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga on WWE SmackDown after loss to Roman Reigns. Last year, Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns' respective factions got a win over one another at WWE PLEs. However, the two chiefs decided to settle the score when they fought on Raw's Netflix debut for the Ula Fala. In the end, Roman Reigns walked away with the sacred necklace, and Solo Sikoa was left with nothing. After weeks of absence, Sikoa returned to Friday Night SmackDown, but things were different. Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga went on their own and won a match against Cody Rhodes and Jimmy Uso. Later, they attacked Big Jim when he was moments away from defeating Carmelo Hayes. After the beatdown, Solo Sikoa appeared but didn't interact with the duo. Moreover, he walked away without uttering a word about his loss. It'll be interesting to see what's next for the star on WWE SmackDown. The lights dimmed inside the packed arena as the WWE Universe eagerly awaited the arrival of the Tribal Chief. The iconic opening beats of Roman Reigns' entrance music echoed through the crowd, followed by his slow, deliberate walk to the ring. Clad in his signature black shirt emblazoned with God Mode, Reigns exuded his usual aura of dominance. Yet, there was an unmistakable tension in the air. This wasn't the same Roman Reigns who had ruled WWE as the undisputed champion. The cracks in the bloodline were evident, and tonight, the WWE Universe sensed something big was about to happen. As Reigns stood in the center of the ring, microphone in hand, he scanned the crowd with a mixture of disdain and weariness. 3 years, he began, his voice a deep growl. 3 years I carried this company. I carried my family. I made them relevant. And what did I get in return? Betrayal, jealousy, disrespect. The crowd erupted into a mix of boos and cheers, acknowledging the chaos the bloodline had left in its wake. Jimmy and Jey Uso were no longer by Roman's side. Their rebellion had split the once dominant faction, leaving Reigns isolated and, for the first time in years, vulnerable. But tonight, he wasn't here to mourn the past. He was here to reclaim his throne, and he wasn't going to do it alone. A familiar presence. The crowd's murmurs turned into roars as a familiar theme song blasted through the speakers. Solo Sikoa, the silent enforcer of the bloodline, emerged at the top of the ramp. His presence was as menacing as ever, his cold, calculating eyes locked on the man who had once called him a brother. Solo had been absent from WWE television for weeks, last seen walking out on Reigns after a heated confrontation. Speculation about his future had run rampant, with rumors suggesting he was tired of being treated as a pawn in Reigns' power games. Yet here he was, marching to the ring with purpose. Reigns smirked, a glimmer of satisfaction crossing his face. He motioned for Solo to join him in the ring, but the younger Anoa'i didn't immediately oblige. Instead, he stood at the edge of the ring, staring at Reigns with an intensity that sent chills through the crowd. "You gonna stand there, or you gonna acknowledge me?" Reigns taunted, raising his championship belt as a reminder of his status. Solo finally climbed into the ring, the tension between them palpable. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, unsure whether this was the beginning of a reunion or another chapter in the Bloodline's implosion. The confrontation. Reigns and Solo stood face to face, the silence between them more powerful than any words. After a moment, Reigns broke the stalemate. "Solo, you walked away from me. You disrespected me. But I know why. You were confused, manipulated by your brothers, by those who wanted to see us fail. I forgive you, because deep down, I know you're loyal to me, to the Bloodline." The crowd erupted with boos, clearly unconvinced by Reigns' attempt to spin the narrative. Solo's expression remained stoic, his body language unreadable. "You think you're the head of the table," Solo finally said, his deep voice cutting through the noise. "But a real leader doesn't need to beg for loyalty. He earns it." The crowd exploded at Solo's bold statement, their cheers shaking the arena. Reigns' smirk faltered for a split second, but he quickly regained his composure. "Careful, Solo," Reigns warned. "You're walking a dangerous line. I made you. I brought you into the Bloodline. Without me, you're nothing." Solo took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "You didn't make me, Roman. This family, our Bloodline, it's bigger than you. But I'm willing to give you one more chance to prove you deserve to lead. An unlikely alliance." Before Reigns could respond, the arena lights flickered, and Paul Heyman appeared on the Titantron. The wise man looked more frantic than usual, his hands wringing nervously as he addressed the situation. Gentlemen, Heyman pleaded. "This is not the time for infighting. Roman, Solo, think about what we've built together. The Bloodline has dominated WWE because we stood united. And now, with WrestleMania season approaching, the entire WWE roster is watching and waiting for us to implode. Are you really going to give them what they want?" Reigns and Solo exchanged a glance, the weight of Heyman's words sinking in. The cracks in the Bloodline had made them vulnerable, and every faction in WWE was eager to capitalize on their downfall. "Solo," Heyman continued, "you've always been the enforcer, the backbone of the Bloodline. And Roman, you're the tribal chief, the face of this industry. Together, you're unstoppable. But apart, you're just another set of targets." Reigns turned to Solo, his expression softening. "He's right. We've let them divide us. But it's time to remind everyone who we are. The Bloodline doesn't die, it evolves. And I need you, Solo. Not as my enforcer, but as my brother. A renewed purpose." The crowd erupted as Reigns extended his hand to Solo. The tension was palpable as Solo stared at the outstretched hand, the WWE Universe unsure of what he would do. After what felt like an eternity, Solo grabbed Reigns' hand, pulling him into a powerful embrace. The crowd's reaction was electric, a mix of cheers and boos echoing throughout the arena. The tribal chief and his enforcer were back together, and the WWE landscape had just shifted once again. A new challenge. As Reigns and Solo stood united in the ring, their reunion was interrupted by the sound of new entrance music. The crowd turned to the ramp, where two unfamiliar figures emerged. One was a towering 6'8" newcomer, while the other was a grizzled veteran well known on the independent scene. The duo marched to the ring, microphones in hand, their intentions clear. "Roman, Solo," the veteran began, "you talk about being the most dominant force in WWE. But the truth is, your time is over. The Bloodline is broken, and we're here to finish the job." Reigns smirked, his confidence returning. "You're looking at the greatest faction in WWE history. You think you can take us down? Get in this ring and try." The crowd roared as the newcomers charged the ring, and a massive brawl ensued. Reigns and Solo worked together seamlessly, their chemistry as strong as ever. The WWE Universe watched in awe as the duo dismantled their opponents, sending a clear message to the locker room. The Bloodline was back, and they weren't going anywhere. The path forward. As the dust settled, Reigns and Solo stood tall in the ring, their bond seemingly stronger than ever. But the road ahead was far from easy. With WrestleMania season on the horizon and a roster full of hungry challengers, the Bloodline's resurgence would be tested like never before. For now, though, the WWE Universe had witnessed the beginning of a new chapter in the Bloodline story. And whether you loved them or hated them, one thing was certain: Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa were ready to remind the world